to this video about role clarification. Role clarification is really, really important, regardless of whether you're looking at it as an element of pro-social modelling like we are. In terms of leadership, leading a team, working with people, role clarification is the absolute basis for anything that you do. Even if you're not looking at leadership, anything to do with working with other people, not even necessarily in your working life, role clarification is absolutely crucial. So let's look at an example. Part of my day job is quality assurance. I have to review people's work and make sure that everything has been completed to a satisfactory standard before that work can then be progressed onto the next step. It can be quite time consuming, so sometimes I do get a bit of a backlog if a lot of stuff comes in at one time and everybody sends me everything at the same time. So it's not something that I can do with an instant turnaround, although a lot of the time I do manage to do it on the same day that it's sent to me. In a recent example, I was sent something in the afternoon. It wasn't too late in the afternoon, but I was simply sent the file and the email said, "Can you check this for me, please?" I had a lot of work to do at that point, and I was actually working on a project to do with something else, and that was actually quite an important project which needed to be done within the next day or so. So as I was in the middle of that, I carried on working on my project, and any of the assurance work that came in, I left that so that I could deal with it the following morning. The first thing that happened the next morning was, by about 9:05, I had an email from the person that had sent me that email the day before asking me why it hadn't been completed, because it was urgent and it needed to be done. Now, part of the process that I complete takes overnight to update, so if you need something to be processed for the following day, it needs to be done on the same day. So in order for it to have been processed on the day that after she emailed me, then I would have had to have done it the previous day when it actually came into my inbox. The email said, "Please can you explain why this hasn't been done? It was really urgent and needed to be set up today." Now clearly I wasn't aware of that. I didn't know it was urgent. I didn't know that it needed to be completed on the day that she sent it to me. The email that I was sent with the attachment simply said, "Please can you do this for me?" There was no other information around the work that was required, around the deadlines, the expectations, or anything else. So of course I had no idea that I needed to do it on the same day, or that it was urgent, or that I needed to prioritise it. Because this wasn't clarified, my role in that process wasn't clear to me. So there we have a really simple, it's not my whole job role or anything like that, it was just one email, one piece of work that would have taken me maybe 15 minutes, but because I was in the middle of doing something else and this didn't appear to be urgent, I continued with what I was doing because as far as I was aware from the information I had around my workload, the thing that I was currently working on was actually more important. So we need to clarify, what are our expectations? The key points when we break down role clarification are, we need to understand each other's roles. What am I doing and what are you doing? We need to think about something from the other person's perspective. We need to set clear and realistic expectations, and our expectations need to be fair and consistent. You can't expect one thing from one person and expect something from a different person relating to the same task. So when we start with a clear understanding of our roles, the easiest way to summarise this is, what is my role and what is your role? What do I expect from you and what do you expect from me? Once everybody knows both of these points, then everybody has a clear understanding of where their roles sit and the expectations placed on them. If we think about baking a cake, if you had two people who were baking and icing a cake for a cake sale, one person has decided to take on baking the cake, the other person is going to do the decorating of the cake when it is cooked. First of all, they need to understand that person A is cooking and person B is decorating. Because if they don't know that, they might both go out and buy the ingredients for the cake, but neither might buy the ingredients for the decorations. So there we're going to have a complete failure of the task because we didn't have a clear clarification of roles. If they sit down beforehand and person A says, "Right, I'm really good at baking, so I'm going to bake the cake. I will go out, I will buy all the ingredients for the cake, I will mix them as per the recipe and I will cook the cake." Person B says, "Yeah, that's fine, I'm quite artistic, so what I will do is I will ice and decorate the cake, so I will go out and I will buy all of the decorations for the cake and all of the ingredients that I need for the icing." Probably they need to arrange a time scale for this so that person B knows when person A is going to be cooking the cake and when it is going to be ready for decorating, but we need to understand exactly what we're going to be doing. This way, person A will go out, buy the relevant ingredients, bake the cake, leave it for person B, who will then come along and decorate the cake. It's a very simplistic example, but once everybody is clear on what is happening, what their role in it is, what they're expected to do, and when they're expected to do it by, then you're going to succeed in your task. So we just need to make sure that everybody is really clear on what they're expected to do and if there are any deadlines by which they need to complete it. When we look at clear and realistic, now obviously the instructions I was given in the email weren't clear, and potentially they weren't necessarily realistic either. The email came to me in the afternoon, and these things can take maybe half an hour or so, maybe longer if there are errors. So perhaps sending it to me with only a few hours before the end of the working day is not necessarily a realistic expectation. It certainly wouldn't have been realistic if it had been sent to me at 5 to 5, because I finish work at 5 o'clock. There's no way I could complete a half-hour task in those 5 minutes. So that would not have been a realistic expectation. If I had been sent that email at 9 o'clock in the morning, the chances are I probably would have been able to complete it within the time frame that she had expected, because I would have had a more realistic time within which to complete the project. So by understanding clearly and in a realistic fashion what the deadlines around the project are and my workload and my timeframes, perhaps she would have been able to set me clear and realistic guidelines around when I was going to complete that project for her. Now, in my longer training sessions around role clarification, there is a really good video that I actually found on YouTube a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago now, I would say, maybe not quite that long. But it's a really perfect example of somebody who is coming into a role without any clarification about what the role is about. Recently, actually, this clip has been turned into a TV series, so it obviously struck a bit of a chord with the people that make the TV series. So some of you might be familiar with Ted Lasso, the American soccer coach. And Ted is an American football coach, so he's used to all of the rules of American football. He then gets offered a job working for an English Premiership team and comes over to the UK to work with this football team. Now, unfortunately, he doesn't clarify what the role involves, or even what the sport of football involves, or soccer as he calls it, compared to the role in which he was previously working in. He has got no idea. So he's sitting in a press conference and he mentions about how they're going to play strong for all 4 quarters, and the journalist has to correct him and tell them that there's actually 2 halves in the English game. He then goes on and says, well, that doesn't matter because we'll carry on playing until someone wins or someone loses. And the same journalist then points out, actually, there could be a tie in soccer as well. So he has absolutely no idea about the role or the sport in which he's taken. If he had clarified his role, clarified the expectations upon him, clarified his expectations of what the role would involve for him to the people that were employing him, then he probably wouldn't have got himself in the situation that he found himself in. Now, obviously, if he'd have done this, the clip wouldn't exist, because the joke is that he has no idea what he's doing, and that's the whole basis for the television series that was later born out of this clip. But if you want a really good example, I'll put a link in the description for this video so that you can watch it. But it is a really perfect example. It just sums up really quickly in 4 minutes how role clarification is essential for being able to understand how to perform your role effectively. If you don't clarify your expectations, then stuff starts to go wrong. People don't understand what is expected of them. They don't understand when it is expected. They might get confused, or they might start thinking that they don't actually understand what their job is. And all it could be down to is simply a little bit of clarification around exactly what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're going to do it, and when we're going to do it by. If we don't have this, and it happens consistently, then we're going to end up with missed deadlines, like I had with my email situation. We're going to end up with tasks perhaps not being completed how we expected them, because we didn't actually tell people how we wanted them to be expected. And all of this is going to start to lead to a bit of demotivation within your team. People are going to start to think, well, I don't understand what I'm doing. Why am I doing this? What's the point of this? I don't understand how this is supposed to be done. How are we ever going to get this done? When are we supposed to have this done by? All of this can be solved with a little bit of role clarification, and with clarification comes motivation, because if you don't tell people what they're doing or why they're doing it, or help them understand those reasons, then they're going to get really, really confused and eventually get very demotivated, and they're going to leave to go and work in a job that they do understand what's happening and why. So there we go, that is a very brief summary of role clarification. Hopefully I have explained it effectively in the however many minutes I've been waffling on, but clarity is key. The key things to remember are, what is my role and what do I expect of you? What is your role and what do you expect of me? And you have to be clear and realistic around what you expect, when and how, and then everybody knows exactly what they're doing and what their roles in a specific task are going to be, or in a specific company are going to be. So just make sure that you are really clear, clarify everybody's roles, clarify expectations around tasks and deadlines, and everything should work effectively. If you have any questions, then please ask below in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you next time.